My name is Erez Ella. I'm the founding partner of HQ Architects in Tel Aviv. We are 50 people office working mainly in Tel Aviv and other places, doing housing projects such as this one for communities, doing a lot of high-tech companies, offices, buildings like this one, infrastructural buildings. Israel now is going through a huge major new metro system, and we're helping designing it. This is one of the buildings, one of the hubs. And we design all the way to new cities, doing master plans, this one in the desert, in the south of Israel, in the Negev desert. But, and not only, we're doing also cultural buildings, which we're fascinated by. Obviously, it's very interesting for us. We're doing many of them, and that will be my major points today, major lectures. This is a theater we finished in the Weizmann Institution. Interesting one, but fairly simple in the senses I'm going to talk about. And with technology, we're doing also 3D printing. We collaborate, we're fascinated with technology. We collaborated with the Hebrew University in Jerusalem and the Caltech University in California to design for NASA 3D printing housing for the astronauts on Mars. Now, I want to make a short point about technology. Technology is obviously, we're obsessed by it. We all know that we're going through the digital and technological revolution. We like it. It gives us a lot of advantages, but also it gives us as architects a huge challenge. We need to, in a way, see where the community is happening, where culture is happening, and compete with TikTok and other social media that we all know. Now, I want to show two images that you probably know. We are in Italy, so you probably know that place, right? Better than anywhere else. Those images are going through the internet for many years. 2005, you know the place, you know the event. The same place, the same event in 2013. Now, we all notice the difference. Everybody is talking about the screens, but I want to make a little bit different point. Although all those people that are here in 2013 and came to the square to see this white smoke coming out, they still came together. They can saw it on TV, they can saw it on the social media, Facebook or whatever, but they still come together. And I think this kind of bringing people together, being a community, is something extremely important that we architects and planners can use and take advantage of in order to create great places and better society communities. So today I'm going to show you, maybe that's the conclusion. What we're doing at HQ, we're trying to very much to see how we can use public buildings to create communities during this era of digital and tech environment. So what I'm going to do today, very quickly, I'm going to show you 3 projects. Future projects that we're designing now. The first one will be in Netanya. It's a very generic city in Israel, nothing special, but nevertheless, 1 million people still living in it. And they all need public buildings and they all want to live together. We got a really fairly big site with a very little program. So we decided instead of just spreading all around, try to get this program into one very small building and the rest to make a park, and in a way to have this circle kind of in the middle and all around of it, it's just a park. But I think the main concept was to take many kinds of programs as we can and to stack them together, and not typical the cultural, maybe theater or performance center, but some others. And what we did, we put the theater down below, underground. We use the topography for that. As this space is usually closed and dark and not communicated with the surrounding, to put the lobby on the ground floor, open to the public, free, and then to stack on top of it dance rooms and community centers, and on the very top to have an amphitheater that can watch the sea to the west and have a really great unusual public space. And that's how the building should look from the outside. And in this section, what is interesting is you can see the stacking building throughout, but more importantly is that you can have a free public route that can go all the way and allow the people 24/7 to enjoy this urban or public balcony on top. So those different spaces can be used and watched, and at the end, you can have this hopefully beautiful space on the top. And as one of the famous writers in Israel wrote, that cultural cannot be a museum. It has to be touched and used. The whole building is made out of concrete, very rough, very cheap to build, and easy to use. The second project I want to show you, it's in Istanbul. Again, Istanbul is ruling today, I guess. People from Istanbul, project in Istanbul. And this building that you see now is from my previous professional life. It's a building that's been done for VACO. VACO, it's a private company. It's an interesting combination that we have now. We can see a lot of private entities start to bring or use cultural as a turn back to the community that they're living and enjoying from. So the VACO is a fashion and media company, very famous in Turkey, if you guys know it. And we designed this building for them back in 2007-8. It was open, and they have a few very interesting program pieces within the building that open to the public, but people are not using it so much. It's the library, a very nice design and fashion library. Nice in the sense they have a really nice collection of books and information. And they have this auditorium that they used to do a lot of, or they still using to do a lot of cultural events and ceremonies and so on and so forth. And what we suggested, or the client came to us and said, look guys, you did a great building, but what we want to do is to somehow complete the program into a much bigger whole public program. And let's do a kind of a VACO Art Foundation that we can have another, they call it at the beginning a museum. And what we suggested is to do it a little bit more. We suggested to use just a folded roof, and below that roof to have a bunch of curtains that can go around and create different spaces. So one can have a fashion show, and the day after they can have lectures or art exhibitions or dinners and galas throughout this space. So you can see kind of how the space can be done and act in different times of the day, of the year, sorry. One interesting point about it is that this building, since it's surrounded by buildings that you don't see here, can never be seen unless it's from up above. So it doesn't have a facade that somebody can look at. And what we thought could be interesting is first to use the roof as a public space. People can walk on it, extension of the events. And the second, we develop a really interesting material as the facade. We cast within the concrete metal pieces that can be polished and become kind of a mirror. As you can see, those small dots are actually a metal instead of mineral aggregates. And this building can reflect the environment, we think, in a very interesting way. And since you don't see it anywhere, you always see those kind of glimpses of the buildings from different directions all around with the existing building. The last project I want to show you, a little bit, I think, more interesting, is in Lod. It's a cultural center in the city of Lod. Lod, I have to give you a little bit of explanation. It's a very interesting city in Israel. It's a city that third of the population are Muslims, third are Christians, and third are Jewish. So it's a very, on one hand, people can think about it as a very conflicted place, that people are living in conflict, but actually they're living really well together. And we kind of thought that we can take advantage of that and somehow make the cultural building that's situated in the center of the city into something multicultural and multi-disciplines. So you could see kind of the old city on the right and the new city on the left. the city is going through a huge rehabilitation, and a lot of people moving in. All the black squares that you see are new buildings that are under construction or about to start construction in this soon. And we thought that this place that it's situated also on a metro station, a new metro station that I mentioned before, can be a connection point for everybody to come around. And coming from the west, from the east and from the west, and enjoy this kind of currently open space. This is how it will look in the future. You can see that we need to preserve 3 different small buildings because of their architectural and the historical values that they have. And actually, this building is kind of taking the ideas that I showed you before into one. We wanted to have some outside program, variety of programs, something that will invite and will be contextual. When we researched the city and all its programs, the cultural program that they already do, we found out they do quite a lot. Some of them are paid. You need to pay to enter. Some are actually for free. Some are in closed environments like rooms, and some are actually outside. And we thought that it would be really great to have this kind of develop a program that we can allow all of those spaces to continue, all those events to continue and happen in that building. So we created some kind of a timeline of events, fold it around, and in a way, kind of in this cartoon, plugged it into the site that will create a context to the sides and some kind of inner courtyard in the middle. And so in a little bit more detail diagrams, you could see the program all around it. We kind of manipulate it in order to allow for spaces for the preservation buildings, access from the west, access from the east. And within the building, we have this kind of one datum of platform that people can walk around, the blue platform here, actually freely access the different program without any intervention. And the different program can live on it like different candies, if you like. And this is kind of how the building hopefully will look like from the main square, the metro system, can have events here. So it's a little bit like a theater machine that can act above the square. A little bit more images. I want to mention one more and last thing is about the landscape. It's always part of what we do. And here, since the current environment is very much beige and a little bit kind of sandy, not super beautiful at the moment. Hopefully in the future it will be much more. We thought that we should look at this space since it's been constructed, the first one, a little bit like Oasis. And what we suggested is to plant within these kind of square tons of trees and have this kind of very colorful and flourish environment that different programs can happen. And the facade is a little bit, because of the program, we took advantage of it, and we actually suggested a mosaic of different materials relates to the climate inside, the different condition within the box behind it. And hopefully this is how the building will look at the end with the inner courtyard, different angles, and the main square. Thank you very much.